Hello, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Beyond the Summit presentation of the iLeague Season 3 Dota 2 Chinese qualifiers. Here in the group stage, we've got CDEC Gaming versus Energy Pacemaker, Game 2 of a 2-game series. Game 1, CDEC actually were able to run away with it with a nice little death ball, carry Leshrac lineup that worked out well around the 30 to 35 minute mark. In particular, the Hebrew Light just couldn't hold the high ground and could not prevent them from passing, as Gandalf intended to do. But that's going to bring us to Game 2 here, and Energy Pacemaker obviously looking pretty good in 6.84 in general. They've got taken some big wins against some big teams, but want some vengeance against CDEC, and they're going to be going very aggressive to do it. It's going to be a fun draft, but once again, thank you guys for tuning in to Beyond the Summit here. I myself am Blaze, and this time I'm not alone. I'm going to be joined by none other than Gorgon the Wonder Cow. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty well. I'm really happy to be here doing some iLeague coverage, either very late at night or very early in the morning, depending on who you are, my time zone at least. So it should be a good game. These two teams, obviously that last game I caught the tail end of it, very exciting. They haven't been playing each other a whole lot. CDEC is coming in with they have won every game against EP so far this year with the exception of one. So Energy Pacemaker definitely coming in as underdogs, but Spirit Breaker is their most successful hero. So
Yeah, I'd like to get involved with that one there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The drafter, at least that's the best name I've got for him, has been running it very actively and like just being mobile on the map, finding opportunities to lock people down, create space for Fan for the most part. Fan likes to play kind of those later stage carries, so you get the Spirit Breaker there, and you're able to kind of just be aggressive, find kill opportunities, but not necessarily against these guys. CDEC drafted Bristleback and Centaur, and those guys are damn tanky. Those guys are really hard to find those lockdown kills. I mean, sure, they can't interrupt the charge with their abilities, but they can certainly take a punch.
yeah, not only can they take a punch, but there's also the problem of being kited out or being able to escape the fight globally with the Stampede, right? So if Spirit Breaker does close the gap on somebody who is a little bit less tanky coming out later in the draft, maybe one of the intelligent supports that we expect to be coming out here, the Centaur War Runner is going to be able to throw out that Stampede and either get over to try and turn it on the Spirit Breaker or at least help the support get away.
So, we're going to be seeing the next phase come through here. Troll and Lina actually banned out, along with the Leshrac and the Shadow Fiend. So, EP seem to be worried about that kind of tempo core from the side of CDEC. If they're going to be giving away SF or Leshrac, they know they're going to be under pressure pretty early on. Those heroes like to at least push down tier 1s very actively, and in the case of Leshrac, just try to go for the throne as quickly as possible. EP like to play a slower game, so that's what they're going to ban out here. They also banned out the Queen of Pain and Bat Rider in Phase 1. The Quap gave them a lot of difficulty because they honestly just had some positioning errors in that last game. They were clumping up a little bit too much against heroes like Earthshaker and Queen of Pain, and that gets punished very, very quickly. But this is going to be pretty interesting. Seeing the Witch Doctor on the field here, I think they were looking for an answer for Enchantress's creeps as far as supports go. The two that come to mind are Witch Doctor and Crystal Maiden, having their abilities last longer in terms of disabling those neutral creeps. So
yeah,
cast can be pretty good here.
Yeah, the Witch Doctor also provides the Death Ward against the Enchantress, whose Untouchable has been buffed on this most recent patch. So you definitely want indirect ways to deal heavy amounts of damage to her. And that Death Ward is a very solid one. In addition to the Return, a very solid one, and the Quill Spray, very solid. So despite the fact that Enchantress is an extremely strong hero on this patch, there are a lot of answers to her so far.
Yeah, this should be pretty good. I mean, all the nuke damage, just in general, they don't have a team that has the right clicker at all, which is really strong and really high potential. But I'm curious how aggressive they're going to be able to make this lineup. They want to kind of put pressure on this Invoker. They want to find either gank opportunities against him or just to make sure that the game doesn't last long enough for him to approach the greater levels where he can really pull out the arsenal of spells. But looking at different core options, obviously Centaur and Bristleback kind of allude to like an off lane and a carry combo, so they're looking for a mid. And any mids in the pool that you think are particularly strong here in this patch?
Well, you know, it really depends on what they're going for. Obviously, the Death Prophet received a little bit of a buff that actually turns out to be a huge amount of mid-game damage. The Bloodseeker also received probably the most significant damage buff of the patch, though indirectly. Viper going to be a strong potential pick coming out here as well. I think, honestly, we're still an early enough stage of this patch that people are kind of holding on to their old habits. A lot of the old drafts are holding true. For example, the Queen of Pain, who was very strong moving out of this, is remaining very strong. Io remaining very strong. Earthshaker remaining very strong, even though he was indirectly nerfed very significantly in terms of overall pro draft. So I think at this stage in the game, we're really going to be asking more along the lines of what have these teams been playing a lot at the end of 6.83 that didn't get nerfed out of being potentially viable.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Invoker kind of hit his resurgence with his buffs, and the Enchantress obviously was hardly played at all in 6.83, but everything else is pretty much what you would expect from a kind of 6.83 draft, and the Viper is no exception to that. Very powerful, good lane controller. If the Invoker tries to go Wex 1v1 against the Viper, he's going to have a really bad time last hitting. Then another Toxic make sure of that. So I think that's going to be a difficult laning composition for him. If they have the Spearbreaker charging around, though, I think Exhort might be the better option just because you get that nearly guaranteed Sunstrike, assuming you don't Greater Bash him out of it. But another pick I was kind of looking at maybe for CDEC, it's kind of melee-centric in the laning phase, but Dragon Knight is actually really powerful this patch in terms of lane control. And he's not great against the Exhort Invoker because Invoker's Exhort Orbs don't actually give base damage, they give bonus damage. So the Breathe Fire doesn't reduce that, but even still, it's a great hero to have in the lane and a push-oriented lineup.
Zeus is also fairly strong in this patch just because of the buffs that intelligence heroes have gotten indirectly through the various items that have been dropped into the game, including the Octarine core, which is obviously a core item on his Zeus at this point. So Storm Spirit also didn't receive Beyond Oblivion. Wow, the Ursa going to come out. That's a hero that we haven't seen in quite a while, at least not in regular play.
Yeah, well, it's been kind of the new meta. 6.84. I've only been casting about 2 days of it because it's obviously not been out for very long. But I've seen I think 3 Ursas. I can't remember. It's been 1 or 2 successes. It's not been across the board. I definitely have seen some Ursas fall flat. But in general, I think this hero has a lot of potential. The Enrage is absolutely insane as a buff. It comes down to him staying on his target. And that's where I'm kind of really worried. The problem is he's facing Stampede, he's facing Viper Strike. Like, how do you actually get Ursa to lock onto a target to build up his Fury Swipes? It just feels like he's going to be kited to no end.
And you also have the fact that the Ursa is going to be going up against both Corrosive Skin and Return. He's a fast attacker who's going to be taking a lot of damage and also the Bristleback, which I didn't even think of until now. So Ursa's going to blink in and almost universally be attacking a hero who's going to deal damage based on how fast Ursa attacks them.
Yeah, this is going to be very awkward, I think. Like, I like the idea of Ursa. I think that 6.84 gave him a lot of love, and I feel like he's a top-tier core. But I don't feel this is a draft to run it. I just think that there's just so much that can make it difficult for him. His 2 weaknesses right now is that he can be kited and that he's squishy. Like, he doesn't build as tanky anymore, and he generally shouldn't. So we'll see like maybe a BKB or something on him. But unless you got, I don't know, a Lincoln's or a Lotus Orb on this guy, he's going to be hit by the Viper Strike. They're going to have a lot of issues keeping him on his target, and at that point I can't really find the value in the pick, but we'll see how it works. Fan has done some wonders on a number of heroes, and if he finds a way to close that distance and stay on the target, then he's going to be the dominant core here. So Garter, last pick in the Wisp. It's not a traditional Wisp situation, but with the Bristleback that could definitely run like an aggressive duo of sorts, and that should be giving them a pretty active laning phase.
Yeah, and they also have the Centaur to relocate with. I think the Wisp is a really strong pick. And just so everybody's aware, this is going to be the first Timbersaw pick of 6.84 in terms of Pro Dota. So a very abnormal draft coming out of EP. The Ursa's been picked 5 times so far in Pro Dota in 6.84. The Timbersaw not picked at all. Enchantress is definitely a strong hero, but she also hasn't been getting a whole ton of play as of yet. So EP deciding to kind of work around the edges of what they've seen proven and kind of theory crafting their draft out a little bit here. We'll see how it works out for them.
Yep, so, I mean, we're going to see Mango coming out on the Timbersaw. That sounds pretty good to me. I mean, already getting some good natural HP regen from reactive armor, very mana-reliant for his kill potential. I would have to say this enables the hero to kind of find one more kill in the laning phase if he uses the Mango appropriately. So I already kind of like that addition to the hero and see how he'll improve. I thought it would be a hilarious idea to actually have the Guardian's Greaves on the Timbersaw. So once he's at 20% or lower health, he actually gets another 15 armor and HP regen on top of what he gets from the reactive. But we're going to see a nice little rune skirmish here. Going to be some attempts at Greater Bashes away from the rune, trying to stop Aggressive, but he'll just hoof stomp it, grab the rune for himself. Io gets the bounty bottom. That's a double for CDEC. Really good for them, and I don't think they're going to punish it. Aggressive takes another bash, but in the end, he still gets to walk away with it. So Io gets to go for the bottle rush here, as he kind of didn't buy anything at the beginning, and now gets the Mana Rune for the instant bottle, and he'll be in that dual lane bottom, XZ and Garter, the bristleback of the Io. They're going to be going 2v1 against the Timbersaw for Energy Pacemaker, that's Lei, and he was playing kind of some sporty heroes, but they have to mix up their lanes in order to make this work, so it's no surprise that he's taking a core role here. LT on the Enchantress, going to be jungling up with Fan with the Ursa. Just we've seen this obviously since even TI4, the dual Enchantress Ursa jungling, so that her stuff can tank with Untouchable or Enchant, and he can do the damage, and that works out pretty efficiently for him.
Yeah, I think that's not even really that viable as much anymore now, just because we see a Wild Wing Ripper being taken out right away. Enchantress can hold on that Wild Wing Ripper as long as she wants now, meaning she doesn't really need the extra damage in order to knock down camps, and she's fortunate enough to actually find 2 of them. Yeah. So she could right now be ripping up the jungle if they weren't splitting it up, but instead they're going to end up doing 2 single lanes. It will definitely maximize their farm across the game if their lanes don't get completely zoned out.
Can they do Roche at level 2?
They're gonna try. Well,
healing salve on 1, 2 Wild Wings, and they have the overpower Fury Swipes. Why the heck not? Just get all those creeps to tank it up and salve them up. Do what you need to do. They got the bonus armor. They're gonna micro it really well here, so there's no claps. And that is actually going to be a level 2 Roshan. So cheese strat, best strat. And they're going to actually be able to do something just magnificent with this. I don't imagine that CDEC could even imagine what is happening in the pit right now.
Yeah, there's no way that you predict this coming out. Especially not... I mean, CDEC is completely forcing everybody out of lane, basically. Up top, Spirit Breaker has been forced back several times. Mid, the Invoker only has 5 last hits. And down bottom, Timbersaw barely has any health to his name. So up until that moment, CDEC probably felt like they were moving pretty strong. The question is, does a level 2 Roshan really even help you that much, other than the fact that it gives you some golden experience across your team? Are they going to be able to get this Ursa out into lane and actually use that Aegis to any effect?
Well, I mean, maybe not the Aegis. I mean, that's just life insurance. But I mean, if you just...
up top.
Oh yeah, they're going to see the charge and the bashes and attempt to unqueues a life, but it looks like he'll be able to walk out a little bit there and should be fine. But I mean, just the fact that you jump from level 1 to level 4 in your Enchantress means a lot to me. Like, the Ursa's level 4, the Enchantress level 4. Even if he uses Aegis to suicide to neutral creeps, I could care less. You get a huge boost just from the economic aspect of that Roshan, and it just allows you to overwhelm your opponents by getting that insanely fast level 6, getting a fast Blink Dagger, and getting a kill.
Yeah,
but yeah.
That is a very nice first blood going the way of CDEC, closing up a little bit of that gold gap that separated because of that Roshan. Looks like the Io is going to hang around to heal up the Viper. Nope, he's going to go all the way back to drop his bottle off on the Courier, and then he'll come back to heal up the Viper, I assume.
Presumably. But we'll see. I mean, for now, good rotation coming from Garter, helping out the Viper in that process. And, I mean, the Exort Invoker is kind of vulnerable. He's not as mobile as the Wex Invoker. He doesn't have the Invis option. So, generally speaking, he has to kind of commit to engagements a little harsher. But, obviously, that probably wasn't avoidable death. It's just he wants to try to make up for his CS disadvantage. As you can see, he's down at least 7. So, he tries to get a little bit too deep into the lane and gets punished for it, and that's going to be helping out CDEC a little bit here. So I want to look at the next phase of the game, the time where heroes are starting to hit level 6, get their ultimates out. Who do you think has the stronger fight potential at that point in time?
When level 6 start hitting, I think CDEC is going to be coming into the game pretty strongly. Not only is that because their ultimates really synergize very well, they have the ability to pick with the IO Centaur, they have the ability to disengage with the Stampede if they need to, they should be able to find anybody they want to find out, with the exception of maybe the Timbersaw. But also, they've been commanding their lanes pretty successfully, so even though the level 2 Roshan did go to EP, the advantage is in CDEC's square court.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, maybe Fan can do something with this early level boost. He's level 5 now. Could go actually get caught out. They're going to be going for the cast. It doesn't bounce, though. They might have needed to lead with a Centaur Stomp. Either way, they'll pop 1 life. of that Aegis the Immortal. The Centaur going to be coming in to try to help out, and a bash as well. This could be a great fight for EP, going down onto the Witch Doctor. One hit, he's down, and now Aggressive barely gets the stun. The double-edged fan will fall, and Cheeky is now the commanding force here. If he can just get out of that cold snap, the Greater Bash is still locking him down. He's got Viper Strike and everything, but he's just taking too many hits. He can't turn, he can't fight. He'll just go down. And I have to wonder if the Wisp had like bottle charges and the like a 1-1-1 build, if they could have turned that and actually gotten kills the other way.
EP is playing insanely greedy with their laning decisions here. Not only did they go with the dual jungle to maximize their potential laning experience coming out from each of those lanes. They have absolutely no sharing of experience whatsoever. But then they get the Aegis onto the Ursa specifically so that the Ursa can go into his opponent's jungle and farm alone, so that they are taking all 3 lanes solo and both jungles at 5 minutes. And they managed to turn it into a team fight as well. That's a really smart play by EP.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of strategic decision to kind of spread the map to that extent. If we're going to look at the experience graph, we're still going to see it favor them overall. And I mean, that's not just the Roshan boost bump up that they got 2 minutes into the game. That's overall, they're spreading so well that they're getting a nice bit of experience for everyone. And that's going to put them to the higher levels a lot more rapidly. We're going to see a little bit of pressure up top with Centaur and his Armadillo friend, but for the most part, they're not looking to tower dive with these kind of creeps. They're going to wait until the creep wave comes, and then they could look to make their play with the charge and the Hellbear Smasher. But it all comes down to whether or not they feel confident, and if there is going to be reinforcements. Witch Doctor is missing off the map right now, so it looks like they'll just go back to their passivity.
Yep, down bottom, the Bristleback is definitely giving the Timbersaw what for, and just kind of forcing him out of lane. It's nice that he has the ability to harass with Quill Spray without activating that reactive armor.
Oh,
wow.
Crap.
Mind.
That is just insane. The Whirling Death really good against strength heroes, and when you're facing them, pure damage is good against Bristleback. We're going to see Q eat the Sunstrike, but it's going to be Fan to try to clean it up. Oh, the last right click from LT will bring him down, and the Stampede is wasted. So, yeah, Timbersaw finding a kill opportunity there in like a second flat, and then following it up with a 1-for-1 up top.
That's some next level baiting out of the Timbersaw. Like, I know I can kill you from full health. I'm just going to let you come a little bit closer toward the trees. Get that little touch of extra damage.
Yeah,
all we need.
Rolling Death 15% stat loss, and for a strength hero, that's everything. And that's just a huge win for the Timbersaw. As you're saying, he was taking some harassment, but now like he can do pretty much anything he wants, rotate anywhere. He's buying a Magic Wand, Arcane Boots, and from there, the sky's the limit. He can gank any lane he wants to. We're seeing ganks come out onto the Centaur as they do get the charge on him and follow it up with some basic right clicks, but nothing too fancy.
So we were talking about which team comes out ahead at level 6. If EP does manage to do what they've done and get all of their heroes full ultimates while both supports on CDEC are still level 4, they are going to obviously be in a very, very good situation through this mid game. Until those IO relocates start to come out, they can split up and gank as much as they want, especially taking advantage of the Spirit Breaker without having fear of retribution. And then also, obviously, without the Witch Doctor ultimate, Wu is going to rotate here on the Invoker. He's thrown out the Maledict, but there are 3 here. Invoker's trying to get around, but the poison in the Maledict by itself should be enough to clean that up. A nice little rotation kill. Should give a little bit more experience onto this Witch Doctor, who is now halfway to level 6.
Yep, but Lay's going to rotate back in. He's already done some good work against the Bristleback, poking him back. But think about this matchup here, the Timbersaw versus the Viper. Maybe not a strength hero, but certainly one that has trouble dealing with pure damage. He's actually, like, if you look at Viper's stats and you ignore the possibility of corrosive skin, which is kind of an assumption, then he's actually very squishy. He's a squishy hero that just happens to have an amazingly tanky passive. But if you have all this pure damage, then you're not mitigating that, and we're going to be seeing that there's some real kill potential against Shiki with this Timbersaw skill set. We're going to see a charge forward, and I think at least the Sunstrike is going to test that theory.
All right, well, nope, the charge is going to be pulled off. Kind of gave it away a little bit there with the fading back a little too hard on the Invoker, and the Viper moving back up to his tower to be safe. Pretty smart play. No big items coming out so far, although the Hand of Midas is almost up on the Invoker.
Yep, so charge instead is going to go down bottom here. XZ doesn't see it, but map sense, they do have an observer ward heading with that direction, so they know exactly what's heading that direction, and he's just going to stay turtled under the tower. But yeah, one thing I'm going to be looking at is the next item for this Ursa. Does he go for the Blink Dagger and just kind of engage in full? The one that I saw most recently went for a BKB next just because he was having a really rough game. I don't think that's going to be too helpful here. Like, what will allow him to stick to his target other than, like, suddenly having an Abyssal Blade?
I mean, obviously, if he goes for the classic Blink Dagger, that would be very effective. The Silver Edge would be extremely effective in this game as well. There are a lot of passives that you're going to want to be able to break off through that mid-late game. Being able to turn off the Bristleback from Bristleback, for example. Yeah. Very effective. Corrosive Skin, Return, all of those, especially for an Ursa, being able to get rid of those is a huge advantage for that specific hero. So I would not be at all surprised to see him moving into a Shadow Blade to open up with some ganks and to have some protection against the IO relocates, and then moving in for that Sange to try and get that item up.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that we see very commonly, and like you said, people are still adjusting to it, so they might not think of it, but just on paper, that sounds like probably one of the ideal pickups to have for the mid to late game. So we'll see if it's an item of consideration here. But for now, we've got the Blink Dagger on the Centaur, and that seems to be a bit of a catalyst for action for CDEC. They have kind of gone back and forth a little bit in this landing stage. 1,000 gold, 2,500 experience in favor of EP. So CDEC, they want to even that up and relocate. Blink Dagger, that's the kind of stuff to make it happen.
All right, so the Midas first use just came out on the Invoker a little while ago. We do have both ultimates just being finished off by CDEC for their supports, which means now they should be able to take these engagements a little bit more successfully. Bristleback is knocking down a couple of camps here in the Ancient spot, which should also help him get up any item, although he's being hunted down by Enchantress's Satyr right now. Yeah. Oh, so, and a Timbersaw.
Yeah, Timbersaw's going to gank while they go for Roche, essentially just kind of zoning things out, finding a kill opportunity perhaps, but XZ full HP once more, and yeah, they're just going to go for the Roshan. And Rage is a little early here, but it still might be a pretty clean Roche in the end. You're supposed to enrage after you get multiple Fury Swipe stacks up, right?
Honestly, because this is not a very common hero, he's not a hero that I focus a lot of my priority on, so the new Enrage is a bit of a mystery to me. I have a general understanding, but the best optimal timing, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, so we're going to see the big jump in here, Stampede coming through, massive damage on Old Chicken. He still gets a couple good spells out before he goes down, but the Witch Doctor gets a full duration Death Ward onto everyone, and they are just crumbling here. Timbersaw tries to clean him up, but yeah, although he gets a lot of reactive armor, we're still seeing him having to go and retreat. Enchantress will fall. The Aegis will be forced out. CDEC with that Death Warder just have done so much. Even the Cask doing tremendous work, but these are just two supports. They really can't man-fight against Timbersaw and Ursa. They're doing the best they can. The Earnest Shadows almost makes it happen, but no, they still go down in the end, and I don't know why they chose to take that fight. If they could have just run, that would have been far better, because now we're going to see the pure damage connect and them get wiped out. We are seeing a Blink stun, so they will clean up Fan post-Aegis, but he buys his Blink shortly thereafter, not really caring too much about the gold he lost.
Yeah, unfortunately, at least unfortunately for CDEC, the comeback mechanics were reeled in quite a bit a few days ago, so that fight, even though, you know, on 6.83, trading from behind like that would have been relatively successful. Here they're going to actually find themselves losing a little bit more ground. I just did a bit of quick math during that fight. So for the new Enrage, you probably against heroes, your optimal timing is going to be about 3 stacks of Fury Stripes. Against Roshan, you're probably going to want 4 or 5 before you use it.
Sure. So we're going to be seeing Spirit Breaker try to charge away. He got the gank against him. Maledict is not going to take him down here in the fountain. So going to be all right. Going to be just building himself back up, but that was the relocate coming out and trying to make a play happen that ended up failing. XZ now finding out LT. Just Quill Spray alone would allow him to keep pursuing, but he'd have to chase her all the way to the tier tower to finish her off, and that just leaves way too many openings for EP to respond.
All right, well, fortunately for CDEC, at least this exorbitant...
they're going to go on him. Pure damage. Nice. They're going to connect with everything here. Just a Whirling Death is really needed to make sure this is a quick kill. And now Garter, look at that impetus damage following through. Lei will eat a lot of magic, and he will actually be falling, but they'll still go in. Fan, a couple of Fury Swipes, and he's gone. The power of the Enrage, but now the Cask and Death Ward. Oh, nice Cold Snap. Canceling the Death Ward. We're going to see Spirit Breaker charge on him as well. And LT running out of mana quickly, but it's going to bring down the Witch Doctor at the least. Aggressive, almost wanting to go try to finish somebody off, but no. It is going to be them taking it 3 for 2. Not the cleanest exchange, but still favorable for EP.
Yeah, in terms of numbers, definitely favorable for EP, but bear in mind that the Timbersaw does have the highest net worth on the board right now, which means that killing him is going to be worth 25% more than anybody else, and you're also going to be getting the extra gold because he has been getting quite a few kills without dying here. So that one kill on its own basically evens out that fight since Witch Doctor and Io aren't really worth anything. Yeah. But the fact that Witch Doctor and Io are not getting experience during this period of time while they're respawning does hurt quite a bit for CDEC, because really where they're hurting are levels.
Yeah, another factor is time, though, I think. CDEC in general, like, they want to be up-tempo on this game, because when you look at it, they're up against 2 Hands of Midas now. Shiki might go 1 to neutralize that out a little bit, but generally speaking, time is on EP's side. They can play a later game, get Invoker up to level 25, get Enchantress up to level 16, and build themselves up for the late game. And I think that they still have a lot of potential that in that particular phase of the game in general, and the Midases are going to help with that. So anytime that there's an even exchange, that's time that's wasted and is not actually providing opportunities for CDEC to pull forward. We're going to see the relocate and the blink stomp on delay. Should be a pretty easy kill, but will they follow it up with the tier 1 tower is the question.
Well, it looks like the IO is going to be holding on to the Viper, so farming probably more priority for them right now than pushing. They're actually going to come back for bottom, where Ursa's going to grab a quick kill and hang out. Witch Doctor TP down here. I suspect that he wouldn't TP down completely alone, so presumably if this is a push, he'll have some allies come in. Though nobody really seems that interested in showing up. Maybe a bit of miscommunication. Yeah, he's completely zoned out behind the tier 2, so now not only did he TP in, but he's going to sit here and not do anything for a little while.
Yeah. Some good wards coming down from LT too, getting some good vision up towards the Ancients, blocking them out with the Sentry Ward. They see Shiki's rotation, and they even have a little illusion following along behind. They won't see the smoke play though, so there's a possibility that that could catch EP off guard, but as it is right now, they would have to do a lot of work with that Blink Stomp in order to really actually turn a fight with that sneaky play. We're going to see tier 1 pressure coming out from Old Chicken. They want to punish him, and if he goes for any more creeps, they'll get that opportunity, but it looks like he's falling back to his tower into the jungle.
They are going to chase it out a little bit, and ward dropped under cover of smoke by the Witch Doctor. That's some good vision. That implies that they're going to be pushing this lane pretty soon here, sometime within the next 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And we're going to see this kind of slow siege come down bottom, though. The Tornado kind of working Shiki back so that they can go for more damage on the tower itself. And Timbersaw's got a Blink Dagger, so Shiki has to be very careful here. He could easily lose half his life instantly if Lei is willing to commit. But they have the Invoker in the mid. He wants to kind of keep doing his thing. They're trying to bounce CDEC back and forth between lanes, and when they realize one lane is weak, in particular mid right here, they're going to dive for it. There is going to be a smoke from the side. Zooming out here, we see the Centaur looking to jump in, and he gets a great stomp onto 2 with the relocate. You can't isolate them when they have that relocate, and Fan's going to be punished heavily. Spirit Breaker already dead. LT now going to be chased down. Sure, he kills the Witch Doctor, but in exchange for his life, it's not really worth it. This is going to be a great movement from CDEC, using the relocate well. It looks like Lei might be able to get Garter here with these last usages of his ultimate, but actually he's not. Garter going to live with 40 HP, and Lei will have to try to go for the TP out. Sunstrike! Oh, so close, but no. No matter the case, that was
a really close Sunstrike considering how non-intuitive that location for the Io was.
Right?
It was so low. Absolutely. Yeah, and by the time the Io turned around, the vision was basically gone because Timbersaw had been jumping away. That fight worked out, obviously, very, very well for CDEC. It basically closed the gap on experience down to manageable levels, and like I said, that experience gap, for the moment, is their biggest problem. Very soon, the gold gap is going to become a serious problem as well, but at the moment, very manageable. It's like one major item spread across the entire team of the opposition.
Nice deny from Shiki under the tier 1 tower. Gets hit by the Cold Snap, shrugs it off, and the Nether Toxin does what it needs to do to deny out that tower. So he gets his Midas, he denies the tower. That's a very significant economic swing forward for him and his team. We're going to see Ursa take care of some Ancients. He has that Blink Dagger looking towards BKB, and really that's what he needs to do to get online. But I almost feel like they have to find a way to prevent Stampede this game. Well, last game, game 1, we saw that there was a lot of Orchid play against the Centaur whenever he jumped in, and there were 2 or 3 really big fights where Stampede wasn't used at all. I kind of feel like they need a little bit of that action in order to get this Ursa on the targets that he desires.
Yeah, definitely they're going to want to be able to shut him down in some way. So if it's not going to be silence, it means that they're going to have to initiate onto him with the Spirit Breaker so that they can have some sort of a stun lock onto him and try to just blow him up before he manages to get that off. Especially if an Ags comes out on him, that is going to be his teammates from anywhere will be able to be there and be unkillable for 5-7 seconds. It's very, very difficult to overcome a fight that is being initiated on by that Ag Stampede.
So we see the Blade Mail coming out on Spirit Breaker, and I've seen this quite a few times, but now I'm seeing it as well on the Bristleback. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah,
No.
I have mixed thoughts about the. Well, let's come back to this because it looks like the TP out is going to be there. You know, I have mixed thoughts about that. The way the Bristleback is going to be moving into the game right now, he definitely wants to be able to return as much damage as he possibly can onto that Ursa, and that's a major priority for him. So moving into the Blade Mail, I think, is very strong, but something like an Octarine Core is a very, very good item to transition into the late game, especially when you're going up against a team of full cores. The Spirit Breaker is going to be going down here one way or another.
Yeah, it's close, but the Malediction would have taken him down in the Fountain if not for the Death Ward doing it in the first place. Now we're going to see LT get caught up by the Storm. Nice double edge, but they really can't finish him off, and now they just got to deal with the Timber Saw directly. So Viper Strike, right-clicking him down. Pretty quick kill against him, and Ursa still has to farm. He still has to just kind of focus on his BKB, otherwise he really can't get into these fights. So.
And look at that, just on time. About 3 minutes, 4 minutes after that ward is placed, they're going to go ahead and push this tower. That's exactly when you want to do it with that vision. So you still have it there if you do have to fall back for some reason, but ideally you'll just be able to use it and then have it cover your retreat as you go back.
Yeah. So as far as what you were saying there, I do think that there's no way that Bristleback would have gone for the Blade Mail if he wasn't facing an Ursa. I think that that's really the main reason. Generally speaking, he's tanky enough and he's survivable enough, and he's already putting out damage in return sufficiently for most enemy lineups. But in this case, the Ursa, Fury swiping him down so quickly with that Enrage, you have to do something. Unfortunately, that Enrage still makes it so that 80% of that Blade Mail damage is gone. The Orbs are actually not hitting on Old Chicken here. He's invis and Ghostwalk. They see the debuff, but they don't see his location until just then. And the relocate's done. And they actually got the tower. The Siege Creep was able to take the tier 2 by itself, and that is kind of a mistake from CDEC, honestly. Garter, Sunstrike,
wow.
Hasted and Stampede. Maybe. Oh man, that was a really close call.
Oh, Spirit Breaker's going for it. He knows there's no relocate because this is the hero who would do that. The Stampede is down. He's going to go and throw out his ultimate. The Spirit Breaker does go ahead and pop his Blade Mail. He's coming in for the fight. The Blade Mail is also up on the Bristleback. They're fighting each other. Meanwhile, the Maldix is going to go out into the Centaur. Centaur is being chased down by the Ursa, and the Io is just trying to keep him alive from the edge of the fight. Ursa's going to come around here from the north end of this tower as the Bristleback comes in, getting some Quill Sprays on and trying to force the Ursa back. Ursa will be forced back pretty successfully into his team, and all things considered, that's a 2 support for 1 off support, sort of. Everybody's really a core for EP, so but the engagement favors EP, all things said and done.
Yeah, just kind of moving in there. They get the tower, they get everything they want out of that, and they kind of try to look to push forward. I mean, we do see that the Ursa is going to be going for Roche once again, and if he gets this, he's got Aegis and BKB. He can just drop his stick, grab the Aegis, and the BKB will come shortly thereafter, so it's got to be CDEC to take a test. Oh yeah, 3rd Roche at 23 minutes. Why not? Oh boy, we're going to see a nice stomp, but it's not going to snatch the Aegis, and I think Aggressive, the Force Staff, is going to bail him out in time.
So I was actually running stats on some Aegis stealing stuff the other day. It's interesting to note that in Dota for 6.83, if you successfully steal an Aegis, you have a lower percentage win rate than if you just give your opponent an Aegis.
Yeah, I actually think that's accurate. Like generally speaking, there are going to be plenty of times where a lesser, like a team that is behind, is able to snag a Roshan just based off of either map positioning or actually having taken a fight. But if you feed away an additional kill and give that advantage away even further, then it's not that great. If you wait, is it if you successfully snatch the Aegis and then die again, or do you know if there's any?
I didn't put any conditions on the data for what happens after you get the Aegis or before. It's just if you manage to get it.
Because most of the time you get the Aegis, so you take it away from them, but you still end up dying that second time. and I think that's where the win rate reduction really comes into play. But we do see the jump on Spirit Breaker. Should be a pretty easy kill here. Not really an extraction team. They're gonna go for the charge. He'll magic stick as best he can. If you got the regen rune, maybe, but nah. He pops, and that is gonna be the Witch Doctor getting some good kills. I mean, he's 6, 6, and 10 right now. If you look at KDA, that is definitely the best one considering the assists, but of course the Enchantress just up there with 7, 2, and 4. Enchantress only dying twice this game is actually quite impressive to me.
Yeah, she's been a little bit detached, which is really what Enchantress wants to, but in the mid lane, we're going to go ahead and see the Invoker dusted this time. You can teach an old dog new tricks as CDEC takes Invoker to the pound.
Yeah, we're still seeing Fan move forward, though. Despite having just lost the Invoker, he's going into an aggressive spot on the map, looking for maybe just a quick pick and a disengage. Wow, do you think he could actually find a kill here?
Well, he thinks he can find a kill here. He wouldn't be wasting his time. He's waiting for anybody to come up to buy something. That's really what he wants.
Seems like it.
And nobody really has the money. So, unfortunately for him, Viper the only one, and he's on the other side of the map. This could turn into Trouble Town for CDEC if they aren't very, very careful. If they can manage to grab one with a stomp, that's great. They do have the vision from the high ground to give them a little advantage on this potential engagement, but yeah. Probably better for both teams that everybody kind of split up there. Because that could have turned into a tower loss if CDEC ended up losing that fight.
XZ kind of isolated here, looking just kind of roaming around, but Timbersaw and Ursa are kind of pincerring him in. They don't even know it, but now they're going to see him with all those trees cut down, face to face. Looks like they don't want to take that fight. The Stampede is available, of course, to relocate too, so it's never one person that you're dealing with. It's usually, it's definitely 3, maybe 4. It's not great. We do see a melee creep, Dire side dominated by the Radiant, and I guess that was... Is there any reason that's there? Is that...
I'm not entirely sure.
It's just an Enchantress creep, right? Like,
yeah, it's just running around doing nothing.
Scouting stuff out. It's info. Oh, well, very late Yules, but it still disrupts the attempt to hoof stomp, and they're going to charge forward, charging right past Shiki, right into Garter. There's going to be the Stampede away, though. This gives an opening for Ursa to do massive damage to this team fight. Garter, though, they've got to bring him down first. They do with the pure damage. Now Fan looking for XZ. Pops the Enrage, pops the Fierce Swept, so gets stunned out in the meantime. And on the backside, Witch Doctor doing some good damage. He'll fall pretty quickly, though, to the Impetus. And now Aggressive tries to go for the TP away. And we'll get it, actually. TPing to the tier 2 tower, just anything that he can get to as quickly as possible, and he will survive with 360 HP. Now kind of going towards mid, they look for at least the tower, if not the heroes behind it.
Yeah, Enchantress is going to have an Ags and 200 gold, and if you thought that she was getting a lot of kills and not dying a lot before that point, especially for a team that is really dependent on their passive abilities for survivability.
Yeah.
So back just explode here. Centaur, however, will get a return kill.
So, I mean, Fan shrugging off the blade mill. Oh, man, they're going to be maybe able to turn it here. They've got Empower on Fan, but he's being kited so hard by the poison attack. He'll turn with his ulti. No, he'll save his ulti for his second life. But I'm not sure if he can even get the blink out. He'll certainly try. Oh, the hoof stomp's perfect. Fan gets locked down, and that is going to be them in just disarray. Retreating in ball, but not able to get the Enchantress out. At least she got her Axe, but she will be down for her Midas transmute coming off cooldown. Still, the Midas kind of did its job getting the Agatims for her at this timing, and it looks like the Timbersaw will be able to disengage. So, overall, what's CDEC's next move? They're getting some kills, they're getting some return, they're able to move across the map and react really well. But as far as proactive action, what is it? It looks like it's backdooring a tier 1.
Yeah, and that's probably the right call. I was going to say, it's really unfortunate for them that all their creeps are pushed in on every lane, so they can't relocate and push anywhere. That tier 2 is not going to fall. But tier 1s don't have backdoor protection, so that was pretty much the play. The Timbersaw is making an interesting call here, and actually misplays her, knocks down the trees that he wanted to hook to, and ends up going down.
Oh, jeez!
Oh, there's the cheese! The Spirit Breaker is going to get out. Here comes the Invoker to cover up the retreat.
Shiki's very low on mana here. This is not a time where you want to pursue, and in fact the charge is going to come through a second time over. He TP's back to heal up, and he goes for a second charge. They should be able to run Shiki down. It's a long charge, though, and they're going to just go for what looked like an easier kill up against the Witch Doctor, but he doesn't follow through with the Yules or the Cold Snap, just falls back here, and it goes back to farming. So the Ags up on the Enchantress. the Ursa at a 9-second BKB with 1k gold banked up, and we'll see where that takes us. Ags is up for the Centaur, by the way.
All right, so that is interesting. Ags and Force Staff, so he's and Blink Dagger, man. This guy can hit you from across the map like a slingshot. It's interesting to me that he built that Force Staff, even though he knew he was going to go for the Ags. Force Staff is a relatively less common item. It's bought about half as often as the Blink Daggers.
I think it's important to kite the Ursa here, so any kind of Force Staff play along those lines is going to be really important. And you can also get out of things like potential Sunstrikes and the Chakram and things of that nature, so pretty important. Timbersaw's got an ultimate orb. Is he just going straight for a Hex, or could he get a linkage for the Ursa?
Gotcha.
Timbersaw grabbing an ultimate orb will probably be going into that Hex. That's the most common thing that we end up seeing.
Is Hex even like good against the... Essentially, like the way I see it is he has to Hex the Centaur, right? Otherwise the Stampede makes that pretty useless. We're going to see a jump here onto the Spirit Breaker. Blade Mail or not, he's going down. But yeah, I kind of feel like if he is going for the Hex, he has to use it on the Centaur. And otherwise, it's just going to be negated very abruptly. So I don't know.
He can also use it to cancel the channeling of the Death Ward.
Yeah,
which is really
he can stop relocate, stop Death Ward. I mean, that's there's some good potential there, but still, you usually go for Euless or something like that.
Yeah. There's going to be some TV reactions coming in here into the mid lane as the Timbersaw comes out, blinks in. There he is, throwing out the Chakram, and he will be enough to
Old Chicken BOTing in very aggressively here. That was such a crazy move, but it sets up Fan for some massive damage onto Shiki. He evaporates and Q will fall quickly too. No, the Ghost Scepter gives him a few extra seconds to live. The Forward Spirits will hit him, but won't be able to bring him down. So it is just going to be the Viper for now, but Glay going in deep, way too deep. They're all trying to just create space for Ursa in this fight, and he gets one more. Now going for a second aggressive with that Force Staff. It's already paying off, but the gem did hit the deck, and that was from the dire side. Q's gem is down. Spearbreaker charging forth. It looks like he'll end the fight there. But wow, that those aggressive plays, Invoker and Timbersaw intentionally overextending to set up the Ursa.
That was a really interesting engagement, narrowly paying off for EP. I mean, that really went very even, but a lot more ultimates used by CDEC. It ended up being a trade even in terms of golden experience. So in theory, they're going to be able to farm a little bit off the back of that. They won't end up pushing because they don't have enough control. And there is a Rosh up that they might be able to move in and take if they're very quick about it.
So it's interesting. The Bristleback was choosing between a couple of different options to deal with this Ursa more directly. And at first, he bought the Shadow Blade and had that Son, so he's looking for the Silver Edge. Silver Edge will take out Fury Swipes, so that would obviously destroy Ursa's damage output. But he decides to go for the Heaven's Halberd instead. And the way I would say this mindset is essentially both of them are negated by BKB. You can BKB out of the Silver Edge debuff, you can BKB out of Heaven's Halberd, but one of them stops you from doing any damage at all, whereas one just stops the passive.
Yeah.
So,
and
less offensive, but still
the Heaven's
good.
Halberd you can also cast like right in the middle of the fight and not get rid of a bunch of your escape potential. If you do have a Silver Edge, initiating with it is part of the ticket price for it, so you're paying more in the theory that you're going to be able to initiate really well or that you're going to be able to escape. And if you're not really using it for that purpose, getting the Heaven's Halberd is going to end up saving you a little bit of cash for something that you're not really using.
Yeah. So we're seeing the Bristleback pick up a Plate Mail here. Generally speaking, that's an Assault Cuirass. Is there any chance he considers a Lotus Orb? Is there really anything that you'd want to reflect here, like the Spear Breaker's action?
I don't think... Does that reflect Orb? Like, does that reflect Impetus?
Not that I know of, but
I don't think it does either, but I have never actually seen the interaction yet, so it's not something that I've tested. If it reflects Impetus, then yeah, you definitely want to get one of those. But if it doesn't, then there's really no reason to.
We're going to see Spearbreaker get hit by the Viper Strike. Very short cooldown with that Ag Scepter, so it's a good way to retreat. The one overkill seems to be that Stampede. They were very worried about that situation. They'd pop the Stampede, and while that is a short cooldown, it's a critical one for their future engagement. So going into the pit like this with Stampede on cooldown could be punished quite heavily from EP.
Yeah, well, they do get rid of the creep, and they're actually going to go for it. They're using the negative armor from the Bristleback and the physical damage just kind of lay into this guy, but the Sunstrike is there. Doesn't actually do any damage because of the Bristleback on Bristleback.
It's too slow. They're going to go in. Hugh's going to get hit. The cask will barely connect on the Spirit Breaker, but I don't know about this fight. We're going to see the meteor hit on everyone. Huge deafening blast coming down, and Q is the target of choice. He will Ghost Scepter, though, so Fane can't bring him down. Cancels the Death Ward in the process, and now gets hit by the Chakram. Big damage from the Timbersaw, and Io watches from the bleachers here. He's the spectator in this one. Before it's actually Timbersaw to try to bring him down, it's actually going to be a relocate out to the fountain, and the Bristleback will make his way out. As far as the Aegis, that was picked up by Viper. He does survive that.
Ursa, though.
Yeah, so now we're going to see the actually relocating both back and charging over the cliffs. Oh, they're fighting them in the hills here with the Stampede. They will be able to bring down the Enchantress, but won't be able to pursue on the Blink Ursa. So, very interesting engagement. The Sunstrike, I'm hearing it, but it's not going to connect. And, in fact, Timbersaw looks to be going down. The Timber Chain, the Blink, it's not enough. He will suicide to conclude that engagement. And I am not really sure how to call that one, to be honest.
Well, if Ursa had walked away with the cheese, I would say EP, took that hands down just for the fact that Ursa's running around with the cheese now. But he did use it on the tail end of that fight, so he's not holding on to it anymore. And because of that, I mean, CDEC managed to re-engage pretty successful. And they got a tier 2 tower out of it. I would say they've walked away pretty happy out of that one.
Yeah, I mean, they got the last hit on the Roshan. That was not a snatch, just one that was picked up. It was a tough engagement to take without the Stampede initially, so yeah, I think that with the re-engagement, it was actually pretty solid. We're going to see a relocate up top. Ursa has the Blink Dagger, though. It's going to be aggressive that has to play perfectly, or Ursa to just pop a BKB. He's down to 6 seconds now. I mean, it was a 7-second charge, but it's kind of, at this point, not that big of a difference between the two. We're going to see Garter get caught out. Looks like he'll just straight up go down. He went for the relocate play, and it's forced back 12 seconds later. Nice Nether Strike.
Oh, wow. Really nice pull by that Nether Strike. And silence hits the floor as everybody just kind of scatters around. Radiant side just trying to do their best to take advantage of their very brief moment that they know they can split up without being moved on by that IO. They have been forced to group up quite a bit and has hurt their experience. They're actually a negative experience compared to CDEC now, even though they've been doing a very good job of maintaining relative control of the map and control of these fights.
But we're going to see that Chiefs, they come out for the Timbersaw here, and that is going to be a huge means of controlling the opposition. Another big thing is the Abyssal Blade that should be coming out for the Ursa in, I don't know, 10 minutes. I just as an estimation. It really depends on how the next few fights play out. But as it is, there's a deny on the tier 2 mid. Ursa going to be able to control his targets a little bit better with the help of that Hex, with at least the bashes. I mean, obviously he's attacking fast. He's going to get one bash out of that full array of overpower, I would hope. So unless he's up against a Ghost Scepter, I think that it should be some kind of reliable control.
Now, this is a bit of the issue with the fact that you run a 5-core sort of oriented strategy. And that is somebody always tails behind, A, because they're not able to get in and secure the kills, or B, because they're focused down, or C, because a lot of their gold is going to have to go toward these wards and stuff, and this Spirit Breaker is that hero. He's now tailing below the Witch Doctor and the IO in terms of net worth, and he's not really able to...
Oh, they get the Hex on XZ. The Stampede is going to be bashed down. He can't run. Aggressive with the stun, but only on that Spirit Breaker, so Old Chicken gets to cast the spells. There's a nice Death Ward, but there's still a lot of meteor damage going out. Aggressive barely dodges these strikes from the Timbersaw, and now Timbersaw's the one running while Fan fights on the front line. Nice play from the Timbersaw, actually knocking down the Centaur. They bash back XZ, but Lei looks to be suiciding here pretty deep in. He'll go down. They've already locked down the Invoker. They've bought back on the Centaur. They want a little bit more, but it looks like everybody's going to get out safe. So, yeah, pretty back and forth exchange there, and obviously the buyback hurts the Centaur, but overall still a pretty even exchange considering the fact that Timbersaw was able to start that freely and actually go on to the Ursa now. He's all by himself. He's got the Empower. He doesn't use the Empower when he's TPing away. Oh, no.
Interesting call. And that nice cleanup helps CDEC justify the fact that they had to use a buyback there. You know, I mean, obviously buyback is not what it used to be, and that Centaur did walk away way behind off of that. Just getting that Ursa is not going to be enough. And they actually lost quite a bit of gold on that buyback as well, potential, because the Ursa's net worth is now going to be lower relative, and they lost that 40% that he that Centaur wouldn't have gotten. So.
Oh yeah, the buyback gold penalty there, 60% reduced.
So had they killed the Ursa, say 60 seconds later, it would have actually been worth much more.
Yeah.
And so for CDEC, that's a little bit of a drop in the bucket compared to getting him or not getting him at all, but it does hurt a little bit, you know?
Definitely. And then there was the Radiant Tier 2 that went down bottom at the same time, just a massive creep wave pushed in and was able to take care of that by itself. So, yeah, all in all, EP are still kind of able to kind of hold their ground and progress with their Midases and such, and we're seeing them rapidly approach the later stages of the game where we're going to see better spells from the Invoker, the Enchantress tank up a little bit with this BKB coming out. CDEC, I mean, they're holding their ground well enough, but it feels like they need to do more than hold the ground. At this point, 40 minutes in the game, I would give them 10 minutes on the clock to start looking to take a Rax.
You know, if they manage to move in and take the next Roshan without losing cheese or a big fight for it, I would be able to give them up until 45, maybe 50, to at least secure a significant advantage. But I agree with you that the late game potential for EP is stronger than CDEC's. Fortunately for CDEC, the momentum is just no longer there for EP. EP's kind of grasping at straws, trying to hold on to what once was. And they keep taking these really aggressive engagements that are going even, and that buys them some time, but it doesn't get them the little bit of leeway that they need in order to really secure one good fight. Yeah.
So, I mean, right now, their movement in the fights is a little bit awkward with the Timbersaw not feeling as tanky as he was. Do you feel like when he builds up this Shiva's Guard, he's going to be feeling a little bit better about that, or is he still lacking HP?
You know, honestly, I think he's still lacking HP, especially considering he already has the plate mail, and that's a good chunk of that survivability that the Shiva's Guard gives him. I don't really know that finishing it is going to make him feel a whole lot tankier than he feels now up against the Nether Toxin and up against the return damage and all the physical damage that's really pumping out. Honestly, an Assault Cuirass is something that we should be seeing coming out of EP because of, I mean, Quill Spray are physical, Death Ward is physical, Nether Toxin is physical, Corrosive Skin is magical, but you also have return damage is also physical, and all the right clicks as well. Like, there's no reason not to get that armor bonus.
That being said, I would feel a lot more, I would agree with you a lot more if it wasn't for the fact that XZ didn't go for an AC himself. Like, AC to counter AC would be really good, but XZ went for a Shiva's Guard, which I just entirely disagree with, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting as a call. I mean, it does help kite out that Ursa a little bit more with that slow aura. It stops blinks if you do see it. And it gives you that flying vision around the pit, which has been a really, really central location for a lot of very integral fights through the course of this game. So I can understand the choice, but I agree with you. I think an AC probably, just to make sure that if EP's AC ends up coming out, you've sort of mitigated the damage that will do.
And also they got the Ag's Death Ward, so I mean all that physical damage could be doing so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that with no reservations whatsoever.
So we've got kind of everybody on EP moving around in their own jungle at the moment. We've got obviously the Relocate duo, Shiki and Garter, hanging out in their side of the map. So it looks like XZ wants to kind of lead the charge. They'll have two heroes to follow through, and they'll of course have that Relocate play. But the ideal fight for CDEC is where there's a decent amount of clumping from EP away from creeps, where the Witch Doctor Cask and the Centaur Stomp can do the most damage, and then they have to just kind of find ways to react to this Ursa as quickly as possible. But obviously the Ursa, he's building himself up pretty quickly here. We talked about the Abyssal Blade. Is there any chance he leaves it at a casual basher and goes for like an Eye of Scotty or some other form of sustain and control?
Well, we're going to find out very, very soon. The advantage to going into an Eye of Scotty or some other form of control is that he's able to buy it in smaller increments, which means that he will be able to hold on to his buyback.
Yeah.
And so that's... I would very seriously consider it were I playing that Ursa, because it just takes one bad fight for EP to lose a game that in the late game they could hold on to. Yeah, or one good one. And either way, having that buyback can turn a bad fight into a good fight. It can take away some of the bite of a bad fight. And granted, having the Abyssal will significantly increase his damage output, but I don't think his damage output is the problem that they're experiencing. I think it's really a coordination thing. So I don't know that the Abyssal is really going to save any of these fights.
Yeah, and I just think it's a really rough thing to buy out for, but he goes for it in full, and that means no reliable gold remains. 62 reliable gold And otherwise, he is just all YOLO. This is really just his one life, his one shot, his one opportunity. He's got to make it count. But
so does he hold on to that Abyssal Blade to knock down the Witch Doctor in the middle of the Death Ward?
I think just anybody that would be running away from him. I mean, I guess you like the Stampede is going to negate 70% of the damage received anyways, but I guess you're getting at least the Fury Swipe stacks so that when Stampede expires, you can two-shot them. I don't know.
Yeah, and you're at least keeping somebody from being kited, potentially. But, you know, having reliable stun against a Channeler is always really nice. I can't disagree with that concept, but yeah, I agree. Having the buyback could be very big here, and it really tells me that EP is not looking to fight until the next Roshan, which is actually going to be quite soon because it just spawned.
Yeah, that's the problem. We're here, 0 gold advantage for either side, just a moderate 5,000 in favor of CDEC for experience. This last Aegis and Cheese may be the deciding factor of this game. If it goes cleanly to CDEC, I would give them a pretty good advantage for this next 10-minute period to try to take the lane racks. But EP, they could take this fight and just turn it completely on its head.
Is this number 5 for Aegis Cheese? Or for Roshan, rather?
Well, it was like 23, 26 minutes for the third one, so yeah, I'd say so.
Well, and both teams are very aware of what's going on here. We see a little bit of poking and prodding, trying to take an advantage. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a smoke coming out of EP down here and a wraparound potential. Meanwhile, everybody in CDEC is fully aware that that is a potential threat. They're just trying to make sure their vision is up. And they're not going to stay grouped, though. They're going to break apart as they're trying to bait for the IO relocate with the Centaur Stomp, I think, is what's going on here. Or maybe just a Stampede initiation.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, right now the Invoker's free to kind of move about a little bit. He's got the Forge Spirit in the pit. They know what's going on there. They also have Sunstrike to throw it in as needed. And then, of course, the Invoker has the level 1 BOT. So at least can go to one of Enchantress's creeps, and that would allow him to get to the fight pretty easily. But we're going to see him push out in the meantime since he knows there's going to be a stalemate here around the pit with both sides being completely aware of its spawn. He's just going to go ahead and push out the top lane, force CDEC into making a decision.
Yeah. As long as CDEC is standing here, they're falling behind. And they can't really afford to be doing that. I mean, EP have the warning bells for the Roshan because they have a unit standing there just watching guard. And that means that they can split up quite a significant amount, and the Invoker with the Boots of Travel can actually go all the way to the top lane and get solo experience in a lane.
Going in
and
the pit.
Be there for the fight, yeah.
There are 3 buybacks online. Timbersaw, Wisp, and Bristleback. We'll see maybe Wisp and Bristle try to go for a double relocate, but right now it's going to be them walking right past the pit, right past the Roshan. Aegis and Cheese gonna go down. They walk right by, and they snatch it. Maybe LT goes down, but they're going to try to bash him and sneak him out. LT just on the run with the BKB. They'll sacrifice the Spirit Breaker. I thought they just disengaged. I thought they just run, but right now they're looking to fight. Fan on the front line with the BKB active. The Meteor, Deafening Blast knocking them back, but the Death Ward from Q doing massive damage, and they will pop the Aegis. They will kill off the Invoker, and the Death Ward is still going, in fact. Gonna see some good impetus damage. Garter's BKB means very little there, but now that LT is out of BKB, they're actually just gonna die. Cheese will pop, but it doesn't matter because he's still... Oh, Gracif getting turned on. Oh, wow, Fan doing some good work, but they've got essentially 2v3 right here, and they have to worry about the next Cask. Okay, Cask will just kill off LT, and Ursa will leave him for dead.
That's a lot of shallow graves. That was... Remember what I was saying about the coordination seems to be their problem, not the damage output? That fight exemplified that perfectly. Like, just absolutely everywhere for EP. They have no coordination whatsoever. I
mean, we're going to see him go on XZ, and he's going to be able to bash him up off right in front of him, so that's really nice. But the Halberd turns him back around, and he doesn't have his BKB up for 2 seconds. Now he's going to be kited a little bit, pops his BKB, goes forward, but he can't blink on him with the Quill Spray still flying out. So Fan gonna go in, try to turn around with the Empower, still getting kited, still getting stunned. He can't stay on target, but he does so much damage. He misses his auto attacks through the Halberd, and it is gonna be him slowly whittled down to the Quill Spray. He just can't get the blink out. He just can't do it against the Quill Spray. It looks like he'll fall, but with the Spirit Breaker, maybe not. Oh wow, they kill off the Bristleback. They're pursuing onto the Witch Doctor, and they will get the Gem of True Sight, with Ursa living with less than 200 HP.
Wow.
Relocating on them, they're going to go in. Shiki and Garter here, but they get tornadoed up. The TP away is successful, so they won't get the gem out of it, but they will get a clean extraction of the Ursa, who was in such an awkward position for so long. I mean, he kind of committed to that fight voluntarily, so it's not like you can say that CDEC were the ones to really force that out, but nevertheless, you said it, that fight was miscoordinated from the beginning, but in the end, getting those kills on the bristleback, the Witch Doctor, it makes up for a little bit.
Yeah, but the fact that EP couldn't take a fight there really, like, hand over hand, at least. They maybe eked out a very slight victory, but honestly, I'd argue that basically wore down even. So with Aegis Cheese, they're wearing down even. That's pretty painful because they're not going to have Aegis Cheese again.
Oh, they're going to go in here, though, trying to prevent the Stampede entirely. The Bash is the Abyssal. It locks down Aggressive. There's no buyback. There's no Stampede. And it's so hard to disengage from this charge. I think they'll go in past the Tier 3 tower. Going deep here. Tether or not, they're going on their targets. Yules and the big Nether Strike. Finishing them off. Shiki's going down. Buybacks galore. And we're seeing maybe the tail end of this. Fan is going to be trying to TP away. Just barely 450 HP remaining. He will survive. They will retreat. They force out 2 buybacks there, Bristleback and Io, leaving Dire completely on 1 life. And that is just an amazing way to engage the fight there. That was a beautiful kill on the Centaur, focusing him down before he could pop anything.
That was about a 7,000 gold swing in a game where the peak net worth advantage for either team was about 5,000. Up to that point. That is a huge play from EP, managing to grab those picks, move up into the base. Even though they didn't manage to break the high ground, it gives them that momentum back, and it takes away a ton from CDEC. Now CDEC cannot buy back when the high ground push comes from EP. In addition to that, they can't get those core items that they're wanting to get up in order to maximize their utility. And just look at the gold chart.
Yeah.
It's a
oh yeah, I just saw that. It's insane. But we have kind of a 6v4 right now with Viper down and with the Invoker having buyback BOTs. They jump in onto XZ. They don't have Stampede just yet to use. They finally use it. XZ taking up a ton with that Stampede buff, and he's actually still alive. He's going to barely go down at the tail end of it, but now they're being routed from the base. Ursa and Invoker both buying back. One can BOT in, and he does, but where is the Ursa? He's all the way back at home making a run, a long run. This is the all-in here with the next 90 seconds. Bristleback being dead, Stampede being on cooldown for 30 seconds. This is their time where they just want to take the racks down, and they won't settle for any less, I don't think. Otherwise, Fan's buyback is for naught. He goes in to the pit, he grabs a TP scroll, and now I question the fact that he's alive right now.
Here. Yeah, I think that buyback was a little premature, to be honest. If he had Boots of Travel, maybe. But I feel like he bought back because he thought that fight was going to go better than it did, and he wanted to be up there to make sure that they could secure at least 1 full set of racks off of that. Or maybe he bought back assuming that it was going to go worse than it did, and that he was going to be able to come out and pick off some heroes who were chasing in, you know, as the rest of EP retreated. But it really just kind of was a push of a fight, and you don't necessarily want to buy back to charge into your opponent's base with that.
Yeah, I really feel like it was just kind of a reactionary thing, or just like instant spur of the moment, I feel I need to get back into this, and then, you know, 5 seconds later, realizing exactly how it's panning out, he kind of immediately regrets his decision. But now we're here, Bristleback respawning, buyback's exhausted from both sides. There's 1 on each for supports. At least that's what I call the Spear Breaker at this point. Does get a nice ward down in the base. Blink dodging the Viper Strike, and they're going to go for the Tier 3. No Glyph, but there is Stampede. Bristleback up. Shiki on the front line here. No point in hexing him. No point whatsoever. It's got to be the Centaur. Shiki pops his VKB. Viper Strike onto the Enchantress. She'll still fight it out with the Impetus, and you can't stun her. She'll just head back out, but no, she cancels it. Baits it out. Now Aggressive. He's the Stampede. They need to keep him up. They relocate him out, but the Impetus still strikes. It doesn't disjoint. It's got to be the Death Ward, but interrupted now. Shiki can't do enough. Oh, Q will be able to assist in the kill against the Timbersaw. They've already killed 3. And although the focus fire was brilliant from EP, bringing down that Centaur, they walked into the Death Ward, they took too much damage, and they do get forced back out from the base.
Yeah, unfortunately, focus fire is only good so long as it manages to maintain your position, right? If you are an excellent marksman, focus firing all the way up into your opponent's trenches, you're going to get closed up on pretty quickly afterward.
Yeah, and while the fight recap doesn't show Death Ward damage, we can just do a little bit of math here and say if this fight recap is only showing 3,300 damage from the Dire, and we see 3 heroes dead, that was still a hell of a lot of work coming in from the Witch Doctor.
Yeah, it was a very nice play. And anytime that Witch Doctor was able to get that up and not be immediately stunned out, EP is going to lose the fight, pretty much. The Stampede is a very, very important factor of the survivability CDEC, but the Death Ward is possibly the most important factor in terms of the damage coming out of CDEC.
And he's got that Shadow Blade, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to deal with. And you look at the graphs, go back the other way, cutting that gold disadvantage in half for CDEC, and they bring the experience back down to 0. So we have level 25 heroes, a number of them, but none of them are the Midas First Invoker. What happened there?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. And actually, my console is completely gone here, and it looks like my Dota is disconnecting, so I will be back to cast with you in just a moment.
Sure. Perfect world, perhaps, but for now, we're going to be seeing Enchantress build up towards an MKB, maybe frustrate a little bit from the Heaven's Halberd, and the possibility of maybe a Butterfly on the Viper. She wants to strike true with all of her impetus hits, but it's actually the Viper to pick up an Assault Cross in the end. So Shiva's Guard for the Bristleback, a Plate Mail casually right now for the Centaur, maybe goes for that Lotus Orb, and then the Viper is the one to pick up the AC. So AC MKB, Ags BKB on the Viper, and then also Sanjin Yasha and Treads. We'll see if he drops some of that, at least for a BOT upgrade, and then probably SMY turns into something a little bit with more throughput. I don't know, Butterfly is the example I'll give, but anything. Good. Even E-Blade would actually be pretty good this game, but we'll see right now. Timbersaw moving out. 3 Bloodstone charges remaining. Definitely worse for wear. And it's a fresh BKB coming in from Bristleback. The entire game he's been lacking a BKB, and it hasn't caused him too much trouble. Now he's back in with a 10-second one, and can be very aggressive against heroes like the Invoker, the Timbersaw. No problem there.
All right, I am back in and ready to go, although it's telling me that my mic's not working, so maybe I should check on that real quick as well.
Sure. So, I mean, right now, as it stands, still really good potential to jump one person for EP, but I think that's where the problem lies, is they commit to one person, and then they get torn apart by the clumping aspect up against the others. Like the Witch Doctor, Cask, and Death Ward bounces so easily when they group up into kind of that nice little triangle trying to bring down Centaur quick. So, I mean, the Ag's range on Enchantress helps a little bit as far as spacing out their damage output, but for the most part, they have to be pretty close to get the job done. We are, however, seeing Invoker building himself up towards his next item pickup, and this could be huge. He's got his Hex, Blink, Midas, Yules, and BOTs, all active items, and he's about to pick up the Octarine Core. So he's going to be looking to reduce the cooldown of all of his spells, all 10 of them, and the Invokes, and his 5 active items.
Yeah, wow. This is a very, very tanky Invoker as well. Not only is he sitting on top of about 2,000 health, but every little bit of damage that he does with any of his spells, he's going to get 25% back. That's a pretty good item pickup for a late game Invoker, and this game is cresting in toward the 60-minute mark. And despite the fact that I thought a high ground would definitely occur by the time the next Roshan popped up, it's looking like that's not going to be the case.
Nah, I mean, we did see some tier 3 breakdown in the mid lane. The Ranger Axe obviously took some hits, but it all still stands here, and they're just going to clear out the pit. It's definitely spawning, though. They don't need vision to know that, because the timer is just showing that it's near maximum. There's like a 10-second window that it could possibly not be up, but they're going to have to just assume that it is and play to try to take it. Obviously, the Invoker doing the same thing as before, pushing out the top lane with the fact that he has BOTs. If he could get the Octarine Core very shortly, he only needs 200 gold for it. That would be pretty insane. And his buyback is coming off cooldown, but I almost think Octarine Core is worth buying out for. The problem is, they Sunstrike the pit, they see Roche at half HP, and there you go.
And number 6 is going to go the way of CDEC, and it's not going to be contested for once. Vitality Booster is dropped for Bristleback. He holds on to the cheese. Nobody has an inventory slot to pick up his Vitality Booster. That's an 1,100 gold item waiting for the Witch Doctor to Shadow Blade down and pick it up. It's interesting to me that the Witch Doctor upgraded to the Shadow Blade so far before he's going to be able to upgrade that Shadow Blade any further, considering the Shadow Blade does have a cooldown when used on self, and the Shadow Amulet does not. So for a Witch Doctor who's going to be trying to move in and just make sure he's being as survivable as possible, and also cover up his own Death Ward with that invisibility, seems like the Shadow Amulet probably a better item for this stage, at least, of the Witch Doctor, until he's able to fully upgrade.
Yeah. If there was more magic damage coming out than just the Invoker, I'd say Glimmer Cape is actually the ideal, but no matter. What the f is an Ogre doing up there? He got a Greater Bast or something, I don't know. But Yeah, there's just casual Ogre Bruiser hanging out on the cliff.
He's, you know, the lookout.
Yeah, exactly. My bones. They hired a bodyguard.
Yeah, just the ability to get rid of those Fury Swipes. That's pretty much, I think, why the upgrade is coming out the way that it is for the Witch Doctor. But
you think it's going to go for a Silver Switch?
I think so, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I can't say I've seen it or thought about it, but it seems like it could be a good option if you can afford it. For now, it's going to be a jump in, relocate as well on Enchantress. Could be a huge pick-off here. The Enchantress does not have buyback. She's the only one on her team that doesn't, and now they're going to just chase her down and try to finish her off. But in the meantime, we're looking for the Ursa in this fight. He's doing some damage, but he's halberded up. He's right-clicked down. He's down for 2 minutes. They kill off the Enchantress. They kill off the Ursa, and that just... They even lose their gem. I mean, this is going to be them defending their high ground against all odds. The Aegis and Cheese still remain in the hands of CDEC. At this point, Octarine Core buyout is, I think, the play, but Old Chicken's outside his base. I can't even run to the Dire Secret Shop fast enough, and this is tough. He
can't TP back for 7 more seconds either, so he's going to lose racks guaranteedly. The buyback finally comes out of the Ursa just to try and protect the tier 4s.
They force
Maybe
the buyback.
racks, actually.
Yeah, Old Chicken on the back line here. Crazy decision. He knows he has buyback. He's going to use it immediately, it seems. And we're going to see Ursa back in the fight here. BKB in 3 seconds, but 3 seconds too short. He can do nothing. He's getting kited, getting slowed, getting gunned down, but he will make it back to the fountain. They clump up for the Meteor Deafening Blast. Big damage from the Timber Saw, too, but they relocate them out of the base here. Shiki's still doing his damage. Overcharge as well. He will be hexed, but that means very little to him as he still just it delays his attacks. Delays his offensive. They pop the Stampede. They get the kills. And now it's buybacks for everybody. Buyback or bust. EP are on their last legs here in this fight. Spirit Breaker on the run. They can't kite Shiki, though. He's just too fast with the BKB. Going to go for the racks now. This is actually a little dangerous. Isolated by himself. Down bottom is everybody on CDEC. And Shiki's solo in the mid. But Old Chicken is just trying to invoke as many spells as he can. Trying to pull this back. And right now they're so spread. They eat the cheese in the bristleback. Shiki's taking the racks. I think they can walk away with that, but I'm not sure. We're going to see the Hex, the charge, Blink Stomp, no, the Greater Bash against it. Double Hex coming out, so they lose Shiki. Wow. They lose the Centaur. He'll be back up in a second here because the Aegis, but now it's some Death Ward on the back line. Play just needs one hit. There it is. The Death Ward is stopped with the Witch Doctor's demise, and now Fan is on the front line going up against XZ. Again, Viper struck. The Alacrity means nothing when he can't stay on target, and now we see Garter dying to one more right click. No, he survives with 90 HP. Lei can't get the Timber Chain out thanks to the hoof stomp of that Centaur. Back of the fight once more. Everybody's bought back. The Centaur buys back, BOTs in the fight, and cancels and kills that Timber. Now the final charge. Bottom racks are gone, mid racks are gone. They charge onto Garter. He has a relocate out, so they need to focus him down, but the Ghost Scepter makes it frustrating. Centaur keeping the Spirit Breaker at bay, and now Fan getting killed off for the final time. The LT, if he dies, that's all their damage. That's everything they have, all down the drain. A good attempt from EP, trying to hold it out past the hour mark, but here, the longest game I've ever cast a 6.84 concludes with CDEC taking it away. Oh my, what a game.
Yeah, that's got to be really painful for EP too, because honestly, they had the composition to be able to take this, and they just had 10% too many coordination issues, especially outside the Roshan pit on number 5, I believe it was. Imagine if they just walked away with Aegis Cheese and given up the Spirit Breaker for that sacrificial kill. He's worth nothing if they just given that up. It could have been a completely different game.
Yeah, it really could have, but as it is, it's just they took the wrong fight at the wrong time, and the management there, as far as trying to buy back and stuff like that, they didn't give a linkage to Ursa. I think a really big issue is he was kited so hard. Every single Viper Strike hitting right at him. Even with BKB, it meant nothing. He couldn't stand target. So it's either Ursa pick that was the problem, or the fact that they couldn't cover him enough that they could give him time to hit his targets. Ghost Scepters, Stampede, Viper Strikes, it all makes it so that you can put all the buffs you want, Alacrity and everything on this Ursa, but he can't actually swing at the target he wants to. It doesn't matter. So this is actually, yeah, like I said, the longest game is 6.84 I've cast. Every single game has been about 45 or 46 minutes or less. Nothing is past 50 minutes, and this is definitely the longest. So we're seeing that there is still some late game throughput from these drafts, and comeback, back and forth, whatever. CDEC are able to close it out, and that was a really nice game from them. So that was a lot of fun to cast, guys. That was obviously a really good series from CDEC that I think is going to be the last time we see them today. They 2-0 EP, and yeah, they'll be taken a couple days break from iLeague. But we're going to be going into the battle of the newbies here. Newbie Young versus Newbie. And despite Newbie being the tier 1 sponsored team, while Newbie Youth is the secondary lineup they're sponsoring and building up, I actually think this is going to be a lot closer than most might expect. In fact, I think it might go the opposite way than you'd expect. Newbie Young are looking really good, at least when I saw them in 6.83. Haven't seen them on the new patch, but kind of anything goes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that match.
Yeah, should be good. So thank you guys so much once again for tuning in to iLeague Dota 2 China. Of course, this is Beyond the Summit. If you enjoyed the commentary, please look us up. We see in the top right corner of the screen, it's Blaze and Gorgon, at BlazeCasting, at the Wonder Cow, and that is going to be wrapping up for this series here. We're going to be going into Newbie versus Newbie Young very shortly here, and we greatly appreciate you guys for tuning in. Again, for Beyond the Summit, if you want to check out anything that BTS is covering, just look over at beyondthesummit.tv. They've got a nice little coverage hub, new website, and all that good stuff. But see you guys soon, just a few minutes, and we'll be getting into Newbie Young versus Newbie to continue the iLeague hurrah.